Okay, here we go. Welcome. You are in the GOTV Workshop Series info session. This is for the summer of 2024, which is right now. We are going to start on this series in 1 month. So get ready. You are here with me, Jess Weldon. I am the training director here at Arena, and also mysteriously in the chat and working the controls of Zoom, Santiago Martinez is with us as well. If you haven't already, drop in the chat your name, any info you'd like to share about yourself, maybe your pronouns or some identity info, where you're living now, and what you're looking forward to for GOTV. Just also feel free, you can use the chat or the Q&A box to ask questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them along the way. And we'll also have time for questions at the end. So just a quick little note about who we are. Arena is an organization that convenes, trains, and supports the next generation of leaders. That is our mission. We started in the wake of 2016 and have been growing and evolving to meet the needs of our community, namely campaign staffers and the progressive movement ever since. And we have a few core values that we try to live by as the training team. They're here for you, and we hope that you will see these in everything that we do. Those core values are community, empowerment, strategy, and growth. So you can take just one quick second to read those, and then we'll move on. Excellent. And Daisy has stopped wandering, so great. Okay, so as an organization, Arena offers a few core services. The first one, and the one that you're here today to learn more about, are our training services. So you'll see that we offer a range of role-specific trainings, typically at our academies. These we typically train across 7 tracks, ranging from organizer all the way up to campaign manager. We also offer a suite of management trainings. These typically are offered in our 201 setting, and these 201 trainings are for folks who are in leadership roles on campaigns or in movement organizations who want to understand how to manage people or program according to best practices and also in community with others. And then we also run advanced specializations. So you'll see these in the form of like data 201. These are trainings that people who are in a specific role can come to and level up. So for data directors to share best practices, or for people who are looking to move up into management of a particular department, for example, someone who might be a regional organizing director looking to be a data director or digital director, to come and really learn more in depth about the ins and outs of managing that specific department. We also have our careers team. So everyone that comes through an Arena training gains access to our careers support. This is in the form of resume review. Our careers team works hard to provide feedback on many resumes of participants who have come through our trainings. We also provide coaching in a one-on-one and a group setting for people who need a little bit of support or are curious just to learn more about how they could further their careers, whether that's in your job search or in a role that you already hold. And then we also have a graduate database, which we are always updating to make sure that all of our participants and members of our community who are looking for roles are connected with good roles that they would be a great fit for. We also provide this service to employers as well. So if you're ever in a position where you're hiring for a role on a campaign or progressive movement organization, and you are looking for great applicants, please let us know. We would always be happy to connect you with your next great hire. We also have a community pillar, and we believe that all of this work is strengthened when we do it together, and we are happy to connect members of our community with each other. That is our participants, our trainers, our general consultants, etc. So we do this through virtual coffees. You can sign up just to have a very quick Zoom meeting with someone that you might be interested in meeting with. This can be a great way to meet a mentor or just learn about something or role maybe that you're interested in that you don't know anyone to talk to about. We also have self-organized groups. These are typically along lines of affinity, identity, or geography. So if you're looking for LGBTQ+ staffers or disabled staffers or staffers of color, we have a group for you, and we'd be happy to connect you with folks who are experiencing some of the same things you might be. And then finally, we also do convene in person. This has become a little bit rarer post-COVID, but we do our best to have convenings at least once a cycle. And our most recent one was in Atlanta in April. So I think a few of you might have been there, and it's great to see you again. And then finally, last but not least, we have our toolbox, which is a suite of free downloadable tools, which include templates and videos, spreadsheets, plans, all kinds of things that you might need if you ever find yourself wishing that you had a document or a product or an artifact or a guide for how to do something. Check out our Arena toolbox. We're constantly updating it. And I think we have, what, 80 plus, 90 something. We have a lot, 90 tools. So check back soon. We're going to hit 100 this year, I think. I hope. Cool. All right. So any questions about Arena, what we do, or anything like that before we move on? Oh, cool. And Santiago just dropped the toolbox link as well if you want to check it out. I don't see any questions. Feel free.
Sorry, I don't know where the raise your hand feature is, but I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, so I'm on the younger side, I would say, in terms of my career, and I was just wondering, um, I guess participants of like arena stuff, I guess, sorry, I don't have a better word for that. Do they kind of vary in terms of their ages, or is it kind of centered around one point in like one's career, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're working to build a multiracial, multi-generational, multi-class democracy. And so we believe that the staff that will do that will be reflective of that. So all of our staffers who come to us, this could be their first role on a campaign, or we have folks who are coming in with multiple cycles of experience who are thinking like, maybe I should actually get some formal training in this thing that I learned how to do through doing it. We have folks who it's their first kind of role out of college, and we have other people who might actually have a super long career in a different field, maybe coming from graphic design or coming from the tech industry and deciding to take a leap into the political sphere. So we really have a very, very broad range of folks who are with us as participants, and we think that's our strength. We think that people who are new to the work bring innovation when they come in, and so we're happy to have you, and you're definitely in the right place, Chase.
Thank you. You went above and beyond in answering my questions, so I really appreciate it.
I'm glad to hear it. Keep them coming. Happy to answer any questions you'll have. Okay, we're getting into the thick of it. I will tell you about the GOTV Workshop Series. I will tell you about each session that we have planned. You'll get a little preview into some that we haven't announced yet. And I will walk you through the entire application. I think by the time you leave here today, you could already have completed an application before we even say goodbye. And I hope that all of you do apply. So our GOTV Workshop Series is a new thing. It is a new program for Arena. We are running this across 3 days, August 27th through 29th, 2024. And we hope that you will apply before Sunday, August 25th at midnight Eastern Time. This is a series of 2-hour hands-on workshops. You can come to one of them, you can come to 3 or 4, or you can come for all of them. Right now, we have currently scheduled 6, but I can tell you right now that we have at least 7. So we're working on making sure that these are very applicable and usable for our staffers who are currently in the field, as well as helpful background information for folks who want to plan for GOTV, whether you have a role yet right now or you're looking for one. So as I mentioned, this is for campaign staff, whether you're a GOTV decision maker, or whether you're someone who's looking for your next role in a campaign, we're happy to have you, and this will be virtually on Zoom. Any questions about that? Okay. Here is a typical question that I will head off right now. What is the schedule like? So the way that we have broken up the schedule for this time, we have a few sessions happening each day, so 2 a day right now. And we have one that's happening kind of around lunchtime, depending on where you are in the world, what time zone you live in. And then another session that is an afternoon or an evening session. Each of them are scheduled to be 2 hours long, and it starts with drafting your GOTV plan and then goes into calendaring, We'll then dive into messaging and scripts and data management on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have a budgeting session followed by a tech stack selection. And I will show you a little bit more about what each of those sessions are right now, so you don't need to worry. We also will have a GOTV orientation session, which will be optional. So if you have never been to a GOTV or never been through a GOTV, you're welcome to attend a GOTV orientation. Eli, I think this might answer your question. We think that there are people who this will be their first GOTV or maybe their first GOTV in person. So we're happy to kind of set the groundwork. We also know that there are a few people coming in who this is going to be their fourth or fifth GOTV. They really just want to make sure that they're getting a head start on planning and budgeting. So this GOTV 101 orientation session might not be for them. So GOTV 101 orientation is an optional session that is just assigned to make sure that everyone is on the same page before we move on with all the rest of the sessions. So Eli's question was, who is a target audience for these sessions? Is there a level of experience desired or intended outcome for folks? The answer is there is no intended career outcome for people for this one. We hope that you will use what you learn in these sessions to further your career, but we really just want to make sure that you're able to use what you learn in whatever role you have now, or however you plan to be active in GOTV for this cycle. So anyone that is going through GOTV right now is welcome to attend. So it starts with kind of a higher level session, drafting your GOTV plan. We will give you kind of a blank GOTV plan template, take you through some of the different departmental considerations for program management during GOTV, and really think through as a campaign manager or as someone who is in charge of a full GOTV program, how you might be thinking about how these different components of GOTV layer on top of each other and interact with each other. For example, how your field program, when you're knocking on doors, interacts with your text messaging program and the digital ads that you're running, and how all of those things should be timed to be most effective. So that's drafting your GOTV plan. If you're not a campaign manager, you're still very welcome to attend, because regardless of what department you're in, it's always helpful context to understand how the other departments might be working too. So we think that this could strengthen people in every department's understanding of GOTV in a way that makes them more effective at how they do their job. We then go into the calendar in GOTV session. This one, we really emphasize key milestones that you have to hit regardless of what your role is, like election day, early vote, these types of things. And then we go into some more specifics around choice points, how to think about decision making, how to plan for training and things like this. And we hope that by the time you end the GOTV calendaring session, you have a spreadsheet that you can actually upload into Google Calendar so that you can start inviting people to talk through your GOTV calendar and think about how these plans interact with other departments or different programs on your campaign. The GOTV messaging and scripts, we hope that you'll leave this one with actual drafts of GOTV scripts for SMS, which is text messaging, for doors and for phones. And we also will have some light suggestions for mail and digital creative. The content of this session will also go over best practices for messaging elements that happen during GOTV and how those things are different from other phases of the campaign, so that we're making sure that we're saying the same message across multiple modes, so that our audience is really saturated with our GOTV messaging and really understands where, when, and how to vote. We then have our GOTV targeting and data management session, which Santiago leads in collaboration with some of our amazing partners. So during this session, we really go into kind of the theory behind who we want to talk to and why during GOTV. And there are often considerations here about how big of an audience you might want to build or a universe you might want to build, what types of people you might want to make sure are included in those universe. And if you don't have the capacity to talk to everyone, how to make decisions about who wouldn't be included in that universe, so that you can really make sure that you're talking to the absolute best people to hear your message at any given time. Then we have our GOTV budgeting session. This one is really tailored to the kind of demands of budget management during the GOTV period. So this is a very kind of quick pace budget management session. We'll talk about how cash flow tracking and budget management will change during GOTV, some kind of frameworks for approaching budgets to make sure that you're thinking about kind of all of the components that you might need, not just for voter contact, but also for campaign shutdown, for allocation post-election day spends, and then of course, how much of your budget to allocate towards voter contact, paid media, et cetera. We'll talk about a few different scenarios there. And then I think I also mentioned that we would talk through a little bit of cash flow tracking, but I do want to note, if you are a budget manager or if you're on the operations side, this session will talk about budget management and daily budgeting, but we don't really talk about any kind of campaign finance reports or how to file. So if you're looking for step-by-step instructions for filing reports or compliance related training, this is not that. And then finally, we have our tech stack selection. So this one is in partnership with our great partners at HGL, Higher Ground Labs, and we'll walk through how to think about the technology and the tools that you'll use to help you and your team to implement the programs that you'll use during GOTV. So at the end of this one, you will kind of have an understanding, maybe not of every single tool that is in the technology universe for our progressive ecosystem, but certainly a great suite of tools that does exist, how to think about which ones to prioritize, and how to make decisions about when you're going to onboard your team to a tool, how that tool will interact with your existing programs, etc. Okay, any questions about any of the sessions before we dive into the application? Go ahead, Sherry.
I just had a question about if this geared to both partisan and nonpartisan, get out the vote.
So
Or
you can use what you learn for nonpartisan get out the vote. I think one of the things that we'll talk about in the messaging section is that you probably want to have an ID screen, but if you're coming from a C3 organization or a nonprofit organization, like a civic engagement nonprofit, I think that there is still value in being in this training. There's still a lot that you can take, but this training is going to talk specifically about having like an ideological screen on your scripts, how to target audiences that have an ideological leaning, who would probably be more progressive. So if you're coming from a civic engagement nonprofit, we probably just need to talk to make sure that it is going to give you what you need.
okay, yeah, that helps. Thanks so much.
Cool, of course. I will also say, if you're coming from issue advocacy, that will definitely be very applicable, and it's like extremely transferable. But if it is pure just like civic engagement, we don't care what you vote for, we just want you to go out and vote, there's probably some different methodology that we would recommend that won't be covered in this session or these sessions. Cool. What else? Great question. Thank you for that. Okay, so here are the steps. If you would like to join us, here's what you should do. First, apply, fill out the quick application form. We can do that today. And then just wait. We're reviewing applications on a rolling basis. So as we're reviewing, just look out for emails and text messages from us. We might have a question about your application, especially if there's like a mismatch in your email, for example. So be on the lookout there. And then once you get the acceptance email, please read it. We have a lot of people who get their acceptance email and then don't ever open it. I think some of that is thinking like, oh, I've been accepted, that's great, I don't need to, read the long message inside. But there are actually action items inside of the acceptance email. So please do open that email up and read it. Inside of the acceptance email, you will find a link to register. If you could just complete that brief registration form, this is also where we will ask you to pay a registration fee from as low as $5 all the way up to a full registration amount. And then once you do that, you will get a calendar invitation, which will include all of the sessions. And if you can just let us know which ones you're coming to or which ones you're interested in coming to by clicking yes on the RSVP, that will help us in planning to make sure we have enough staff on the call to support everyone who's there. And then finally, the last step after you've RSVP'd is just staying on the lookout. We have one more survey coming from you, probably about 1 week out from when the actual sessions are. So I'm going to walk you through the application now. If you haven't already applied and you'd like to follow along with me as I walk you through this application, you can check out arena.fyi/GOTV. Santiago has just helpfully spammed the chat with it. So you can look at that link and follow along. We do recommend completing this in one sitting. It is very fast, but you will need two things. One, you need a copy of your resume. We love it to be a PDF. And you also need your LinkedIn profile link. I'll say this a few times, but if your resume is not current, if you have been on a job this cycle and you haven't yet updated your resume, don't worry about it. It's okay. You'll have a little place to share what you're doing right now. So you don't need to take, 20 minutes or however long, probably more than 20 minutes to update your resume. You don't have to do that just yet. But we'll get into that in just a second. So once again, the application is, arena.fyi/GOTV. You know what's happening in the chat. You can click that link. And if you do, you'll see the first page. It just has a little blurb in case someone finds this application without having read the website or been to an information session. It has some information, so you can just click begin application. And then the first question is going to be about you. So it will get your first name, your last name, your phone number, and your email address. Please make sure that both of these, phone number and email address, are accurate so that we're able to get a hold of you. That's all I'll say for now. We would love to be able to get a hold of you. And then there is a next box that is an opt-in for SMS. We don't do any fundraising texts. We very, very rarely text people. We will text you about your Arena Academy application. We'll text you about if you want us to add your resume to our talent bank. And we might text you sorry, I think there's a bug on me. We might text you when there is a new training announced, but we won't text you for fundraising. We won't text you with breaking news. We won't text you with a headshot of me asking you for something. We're really only going to text you right now about your application. So if you want to opt out later, that's great. Oh yeah, if a 1000% match happens, we might text you about that. But for right now, if you want to opt out later, opt out after you have been completed GOTV Academy and you're good to go. Because it really is me, Jessica, and Santiago actually just texting to find out answers to questions or to send you reminders. Then the next thing is we're going to ask you to confirm your email address. You will be surprised the number of people who give us an @gmail.com email, or maybe they give us an email address that they use for like all of their Netflix free trials or whatever. Please make sure to give us an email address that you actually check, because we do actually email you, especially if we have a question about your application or need some clarity. We might email you and then we wouldn't be able to reach you if it was at gmail.com. We then are going to ask for your address. You can tell us where you live. You're welcome to, but we only need your city, state, and zip on this. So you don't have to put 615 Paprika Street, apartment 1, Flavortown, Ohio. You can just put Flavortown, Ohio, and put the zip code. Of course, that is 43004 for Flavortown. Then it's going to ask you whether or not you've attended an arena training. If you have attended an arena training, please just let us know which ones you've been to. If you haven't, that's literally no problem. If you have attended an arena training before, we might reference your previous application before contacting you if we have any questions about your application this time. And then your LinkedIn profile link. I saw someone in the chat ask, is the LinkedIn profile required? No, it isn't. It just sometimes is helpful. Sometimes people keep their LinkedIn more up to date than their resume. Sometimes it can be easier to load for us as well. So we ask for your LinkedIn profile link, but if you don't have it, a resume is great. And then the next option or the next question will ask you to upload your resume. If you haven't updated your resume yet because you've been super busy this cycle, don't worry. I tried to use an example of my 2021 resume. We are checking to make sure that you have cycle experience, that you have supported campaigns in the past. And I'll show you in just a second what to do after this. So the next question is asking you if you're currently employed by a political campaign or if you expect to be employed by a political campaign at the time of the GOTV Workshop Series. For our purposes, if you're working at an issue advocacy organization or an organization that supports campaigns or a nonprofit that is progressively aligned, that is great. We will count that. You don't need to worry about semantics. We're basically asking you right now, do you have a job working in the progressive ecosystem or do you have a job doing something else right now? And either one is totally fine. If you say, yes, I do have a role on a campaign, it will say, what campaign are you working on? And then you can just type it in. And if you don't have a job on a campaign or in the progressive ecosystem, that's okay. It will ask you in 2 to 3 sentences to please share why you're interested in attending and how you're planning to use the skills that we will train on. So here are my tips. For this one, we're really asking you 4 questions. What past experience do you have supporting progressive causes and candidates? What past experience do you have with GOTV? What do you anticipate you're going to be doing during GOTV this year? And how will this training help you do those things? So the first one is not super helpful to us. If you answer this question and say, I am trying to get a job on a campaign soon, that doesn't really tell us enough information for us to know one way or another how you'll use this training, what kind of campaign you want to work on, anything like that. So the second one is a little bit more thorough. It's still only, 2 sentences long, although they are compound sentences. But this one tells us a lot more. So I've been involved in GOTV since President Obama's re-election, and this year I want to use that experience to help my friends campaign for state house. However, I don't have much experience with planning or budgeting, so those sessions will be very useful to me. Something like this will really help us understand how you plan to put this training into action this cycle, and that is what we're looking for. So then it's going to ask you a question about your ability to pay for the $20 registration fee per session. We, of course, offer need-based scholarship on a sliding scale, so we never want cost to be a barrier for people. So don't think, oh no, I can't afford $20 per session. Maybe I'll only come to 1 instead of 6 or something like that. It's okay. If you can't afford it, just let us know and we will send you a scholarship and you can just pay whatever you're able to. But if you are able to pay, please know that all of the funds that we raise from registration fees go to Academy scholarships, and they help us make sure that our training can reach as many people as possible. And it is an equitable way to make sure that folks have access to information regardless of their economic background. So however you answer this question, yes or no, it will say either cool, when you are accepted, you can pay during the registration, or it will say cool, if you're accepted, you'll be able to pay on a sliding scale of $5 to $15 per session. If $5 to $15 per session is still too big of a barrier for you, just let us know. Don't worry about it. And then the second to last question asks if allegations or charges of harassment, assault, or other misconduct have been brought against you. This isn't a deal breaker question. This is just something that helps us make sure that our learning environment is safe. We have admitted people who have answered yes to this question after being in contact with them and understanding a little bit more about the nature of what went on. So we really appreciate your answers to these questions, and it won't automatically disqualify you. And then the final thing is anything else you'd like us to know. You can use this for whatever, whatever you want. Sometimes people tell us about their hobbies. Sometimes people tell us little interesting anecdotes. We sometimes get jokes, and then we also sometimes get information about, what's driving people to want to be involved on campaigns, when they first got started, and how their career has evolved, etc. So this can be as in-depth or as lighthearted as you want, and it is optional. So if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. All right, I'll pause here. What questions do we have? I'm about to tell you about the timeline.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
I also am gonna turn on my camera. Just I know I don't mean to be shy, I just wasn't in a place where I couldn't turn on my camera earlier. So I'm not entirely sure like what specific sessions would, I guess, make sense for me to attend. Should I just maybe like type that in this section that you're showing, or what do you suggest about that?
Yeah, you can totally do that. Or if you want to just email us, like you can just email me. training@arena.run is our shared inbox. We can just actually talk you through it if you want.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Cool. What else? Boom. Put training@arena.run in the chat. Okay. So as I mentioned, we are reviewing applications on a rolling basis, which means that people don't have to wait very long to find out, their acceptance, etc. This is a new thing for Arena. We're super excited about it. 40 plus people, I didn't look at like the most recent count, but over 40 people have already registered and been accepted and added to the calendar, etc. So we're super excited. We're gonna have a fun crew. We're looking forward to adding you to it. So please just remember to apply by Sunday, August 25th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, 10:59 p.m. Central Time, 9:59 p.m. Pacific Time. That's as far as I can. There's the application link again. And with that, oh, actually, no, we're going to stop the recording in just a second for questions, but I have one last thing. If you don't get accepted, there are a few reasons why you might not be. The first one being not having enough experience to provide context for the training. You can easily circumvent that by just telling us, as I showed you, a little bit more information. Really 2 or 3 sentences about why you want to be involved is super helpful. And similarly, if there's any uncertainty around how you would like to use the training to support a progressive campaign or candidate, you can circumvent that by, if you get a text message or an email from us that asks you a question about how you're going to use the training, if you can simply respond to that, that will be super helpful. And then finally, if you indicate that you don't intend to work on campaigns or progressive advocacy or a nonprofit for GOTV, if you're not planning to help during GOTV, then you probably won't be accepted to this training. And that is the end. So we'll stop the recording and we can answer questions.